Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
So we are looking at the maximum entropy Markov model, and the intuition of the model was given, but the notation had to be cleaned up a bit to make it very precise. So started with the noisy channel discussion. W is the word string coming as input, T is the tag string coming out. So this is a sequence to sequence level problem, and it's an argmax computation, which means an optimization is involved. Since the argmax is on T, we understand that carry out a search in a state space looking for the best T. Best T is the T with highest probability. Now we understand that this whole T cannot be found out as such in the search space. The brown fox jumped over the fence. This whole string you may not find in the search space as such, but you will find parts of it. Okay, brown you will find, brown fox also you might find. As the length of the text string increases, the likelihood of its occurring as such in the corpus also reduces. But parts do occur, and you know that when you do not find a piece of data, this problem is called data sparsity. The solution to data sparsity is smoothing. There are many smoothing techniques. One of the smoothing techniques is called back-off smoothing. Back-off smoothing means we deal with not the whole data which is not found, but see parts of the data. Okay, same thing is done in formulating this argmax computation. You will recall in hidden Markov model, we converted Pt given W to Pt into Pw given T. Okay, prior into likelihood. Since Pt cannot be T cannot be found as such, we broke T into Ti given Ti minus 1. So that we could do by being in the framework of theory of probability. A joint probability was treated with chain rule to convert it into conditional probability. Okay, and the conditioning part also being big, Markov independence assumption was applied so that the conditioning part became smaller. So Ti given T1 to Ti minus 1 got converted to Ti given Ti minus 1, the independence assumption. So see that we are converting a long string into small substrings, the parts of that long string. Technically, this is called back off smoothing. You are backing off. Okay, you are backing off from the whole string to this Pt is getting converted to Pti given Ti minus 1. So this is actually a smoothing operation. Okay, this is the back of smoothing. We go to the constituent behavior of the constituents rather than the whole entity. So actually the problem right from the beginning is a smoothing operation. Okay, it is a situation of sparsity and smoothing right from the beginning. Only thing is that we are not explicitly mentioning this. The problem formulation is not mentioning this, but inherently it is a smoothing operation. And this is called back-off smoothing. Now I have changed the slide, and we are going to the mathematics of this formulation. Now we are interested in probability of T1 to Tn given W1 to Wn. T1 to Tn has to be found out, W1 to Wn is given. This we convert to product I equal to 1 to n pti given hi. Now, what is hi? Hi is called the history at position I. For the moment, we will not worry about any observation, any tag, any label, any sequence, nothing. We concentrate our attention to a position, okay, third position, fourth position in the sentence. So in the sequence, I am interested in the position and I am interested in the phenomenon happening at position I and around it. Based on that, I'll make my decision with respect to placing a label there, in particular a tag there. And ours is a very specific problem on hand. We are dealing with only two tags, B and I, beginning of a chunk and inside of a chunk, that's all. So our T's are B or I, and W's are of course the words. So this whole thing is converted into PTI given HI, where HI is a representation for the words and tags at position I and around it. Okay, so if you were to do it step by step systematically, then you would convert it by chain rule. In the conditioning part, you will have 1 to ti minus 1 and the whole observation, the whole sentence w1 to wn. Now at position I, all these words and the tags up to uh, I minus 1, they form the history. That is called the history. Okay, and this is an abstraction. We don't have to nitpick about, oh, did you take T5? Did you take the sixth word? No. Everything has been neatly packaged and given a label called HI, history at the position I. Okay, and history at position I has two important members. One is the word at that position and the part of speech tag at that position. Okay, so in your chunking assignment, you will be required to do ablation study. Okay, ablation study means do not consider part of speech at that position, do not consider the word at that position, and see how the accuracy gets affected. This is called ablation study. Okay, so this is the formulation, and there is a nice way to now move forward. Next, we concentrate on PTI given HI. What to do, how to deal with this quantity. This is what we are interested in. Can I get PTI given HI from the training corpus? Obviously, where else? Where else can you get PTI given HI from? Okay, can I take a count of Ti and Hi occurring together divided by the count of Hi? Can I do that? Yes, I can. If I look upon Hi as all the chunk tags and the words, and Ti is also a chunk tags, I can take various kind of ratio, but that will not give me a way of dealing with the features. At a particular position, I know that if the word has a capital letter, most likely it is a proper noun. If the word has TION, Sean, at the end, most probably it is a noun. If the previous part of speech tag was adjective, most likely the current word is a noun and that adjective noun combination is forming a chunk. All these decisions, which are influenced by various signals, clues and signals coming from the environment around I, which I call history, I am not able to exploit because of the limitation of my modeling. Probability estimation by means of only simple ratio of counts is not as powerful as we want it to be. I'm not changing the slides, I'm looking at maximum entropy Markov model. Okay. So this is the story, and I need a way of accumulating the features and deciding based on those features, the signals around position I. So now at this point, a bit of digression. So we make use of a principle called maximum entropy Markov model. So this principle says that choose that probability distribution P which has the highest entropy out of those distributions that satisfy a certain set of constraints. So I have to operate in a particular situation, and it requires me to make use of probability machinery. There are many distributions I know of. I know of normal, binomial, Poisson, uniform, Dirichlet, hypergeometric, and many such. Which distribution should I adopt? That is the first question. So this is about the nature of the distribution. And once the nature of the distribution has been decided, our attention shifts to parameters of the distribution. If it is a normal distribution, we are interested in mean and standard deviation. Normal distribution is expressed in terms of mean and standard deviation. If it is binomial, I am interested in the number of trials n and the probability of success p. If it is Poisson, I am interested in the parameter lambda, which controls Poisson distribution. So which distribution should I assume? Okay, so this is the first question. Now here maximum entropy principle comes into play. It asks us not to be biased. Choose that distribution which maximizes the entropy of the situation. That means which keeps the uncertainty at the level that is given. Okay, do not disturb the uncertainty situation. So this is the principle of maximizing entropy, and it is competitor to another very powerful principle called maximum likelihood. So maximum entropy and maximum likelihood are competing principles, and most of the operations of probability, namely fixing the distribution, estimating the parameters, are based on these two principles. Now, if the distribution is given and we do parameter estimation, it is called parametric estimation. Parametric estimation. What is opposite to parametric estimation? Non-parametric estimation. What is non-parametric estimation? I know neither the nature of the probability distribution, and therefore there is no question of knowing the parameter also. A beautiful example of non-parametric estimation is the neural network. Now, there is a lot of confusion about why neural network is non-parametric distribution. I mean, after all, there are parameters. There are these weight values of the connections in the neural network. There is threshold value. Isn't it parametric distribution then? No, it is not. Parametric distribution says you know the nature of the distribution. Is it normal, binomial, Poisson, Dirichlet, etc.? And then if you estimate the parameters controlling that distribution, this is called the parametric estimation. Neural network is not a parametric distribution or not a parametric estimation situation. It is non-parametric because I know neither the distribution nor the parameters of the distribution. The parameters of the neural network are not same as parameters of a distribution. These two things should be kept separate. Okay. So maximizing entropy and maximizing likelihood, these two principles. We are interested in comparing maximum likelihood and maximum entropy. We are curious to compare these two principles. When do they apply and how do they apply? Okay. So when should I pick up MLE? When should I pick up ME, maximum entropy? MLE maximizes the probability of observations, chooses parameters accordingly. Remember, we are doing parametric estimation, okay? We know the nature of the distribution in case of MLE. So, maximizes the probability of observations, chooses parameters accordingly. ME maximizes entropy, satisfying given constraints, takes a stand of minimum bias. Okay. So, let me illustrate what I am saying by a very simple example, everyday example that you have encountered many times before. I take a coin with parameter P being the probability of head. Okay, so here the distribution is known. It is Bernoulli. Okay, each trial has two outcomes, head or tail, and the coin is not tossed, so there is no observation. I don't have any observation. I am just given the coin, and I am asked to give the parameter. The parameter is the probability of head. I know nothing about the coin except that it is a coin. So what is the value of P? We will immediately be compelled to say it is 0.5. The question is why? The answer is we are assuming uniform distribution, which is most unbiased. There is no preference given to head or tail. Both outcomes are likely with equal probability, and the probabilities have to sum to 1. Okay, sum to 1. And therefore, this is equal to, the probability becomes equal to 0.5, 1 by 2. Now, if I push further and say that, okay, fine, you are not giving preference to either head or tail, and therefore it is uniform distribution, and therefore the probability is half. I push further and say that, is there a deeper principle behind this? Is there a deeper principle? I do not give any preference, I am not biased. Can you formalize this particular notion? I am not biased, okay, no preference. If there is no preference, then the uncertainty is maximum and entropy therefore is maximum. So I have gone one level deeper. I am on a more fundamental platform. So if I make use of entropy and take a stand of maximizing entropy, do I get the parameter value as half? Let's see. Now, since there are two outcomes in this random variable of tossing a coin, the outcome of tossing a coin, that's a random variable. It can take two values, h or t. The probability of h is p. The probability of t is 1 minus p. Okay. So two outcomes, two probabilities, p and 1 minus p. Then the entropy is minus p log p minus 1 minus p log 1 minus p. So this is minus sigma pi log pi, where pi corresponds to the probability of ith outcome. So this is the standard probability, standard entropy example expressed in terms of probability. Now E is surely a function of P. I maximize the entropy. So dP equal to 0. This gives me minus log P minus 1 plus log 1 minus P plus 1. So if I do dP equal to 0, then I am coming to this expression and I am led to the equality log P equal to log 1 minus P and P equal to 1 minus P, so P equal to 0.5. Okay, so see that I am able to derive P is equal to half, not by intuition, not by language based argument, but by a mathematics based argument which is maximizing the entropy. So do remember this beautiful example, very simple example, because this same principle applies in our discussion on conditional random field maximum entropy Markov model at any situation where observations are not there or observations are expressed in terms of constraint and the parameter has to be estimated. Now TA team, please write an exercise here. Okay, after write the exercise after the next part of the discussion. So the coin has not been tossed. We have not made any observation. The only thing we know is that there is a coin, and we have derived the parameter for the coin, which is probability of head, which is coming out as 0.5. Now the scenario changes. The same coin is tossed n times, and then there are k heads. Okay, then there are k heads. So we know a little bit more about the coin. Initially there was no knowledge, nothing known about the coin. Now we know that when the coin has been tossed n times, k heads have appeared. So this data has been supplied to us. Now we have additional information. How to incorporate that information now? So when we have observations in front of us, we make use of maximum likelihood estimate as the first point of attack. This gives me the most elegant and simplest way of dealing with the situation when the observations are there and the distribution is known, only the parameters need to be found out. Okay, so do remember this: distribution known, parametric estimation situation, and observations are there. The best principle to apply at this point of time is maximum likelihood estimate. This works, okay, most of the time, and most of the machine learning work that you do is based on this principle. But there is a competing framework which is maximum entropy, and at some point of time I will show you that parameter estimation based on maximum entropy and parameter estimation based on maximum likelihood lead us to the same conclusion. The parameter values come out to be same, provided the underlying distribution is from the exponential family. Okay, exponential family means all these well-known distributions: Poisson, binomial, Gaussian, hypergeometric, and so on. So most of the distributions fall in that framework, and therefore maximum likelihood and maximum entropy lead to the same conclusion with respect to value of the parameter. That's a very elegant, mathematical work, which at some point of time I would like to present to you. So the likelihood of the data is product of IID observations, so k heads and n minus k tails. So the likelihood of the observation is nothing but the product of the individual outcomes probability, which is p to the power k into 1 minus p to the power n minus k. These are all IIDs, independent identical distribution of observation. Now likelihood is this. So now if I do dl dp equal to 0, then p comes out to be k by n, which was shown before in one of the slides. So I could very elegantly get the probability of head as k by n using maximum likelihood. Now TA team put the exercise. The coin is given and n tosses have been made, k heads have appeared. Can you apply maximum entropy principle on this situation? That observations also are there. Okay, observations also are there, and get that probability of head is k by n by using maximum entropy principle, not maximum likelihood. Can you do that? Okay, so please give this exercise, and I would like you to know if you have been able to show that. MLE gives you k by n, ME also should give you k by n. Now observations have been made. The question is that I form the entropy expression minus p log p minus 1 minus p log 1 minus p. I do that. What about the observation? What do I do? Well, you do the following. You say that I maximize this quantity subject to constraint that there are k heads out of n tosses, subject to that constraint. So it becomes a constraint optimization problem. Okay, constraint optimization problem. Was there a constraint in maximum likelihood estimate? No, there was no constraint. If we had dealt with P and Q, where Q is the probability of tail, then the constraint would be P plus Q equal to 1. So maximize P to the power K into Q to the power N minus K, subject to the constraint P plus Q equal to 1. So then there you will use Lagrange multiplier and take the derivative with respect to P and with respect to lambda, the Lagrange multiplier, and then by solving those equations you will again get K equal to K by N. So we know how to make use of constraints in an optimization situation, but in this case where K heads have appeared out of N, this is the constraint, this is additional knowledge, maximize the entropy subject to that constraint. So I urge you to do this exercise. It will be very insightful for you, where you will see how MLE and ME both can lead to the same conclusion. Now we would like to come back to MEMM for sequence to sequence leveling. Now we have already seen from the Cohen example where no observation has been made. We would like to choose a probability distribution that has the highest entropy out of all those distributions that satisfy a certain set of constraints. That is the second situation where we have to satisfy the constraint that there are k heads out of n trials. Okay, so we have to choose that probability distribution P that has the highest entropy. Now somebody yesterday asked if I could give an intuition behind the MEMM formulation, and I mentioned towards the end of the class that it is the maximum entropy principle. Now we are proceeding towards that, the formulation based on maximum entropy principle. And the constraints restrict the model to behave in accordance with a set of statistics collected from the training data. So this situation is like using maximum entropy principle when k heads have come out of n tosses. This is the situation. We do have observation in front of us. The observation is, what is observation? The training data. The corpus which has been tagged with part of speech and chunk, okay, chunk labels. So I have training data in front of me labeled with B and I, and before that labeled with part of speech tags, and before that maybe all kinds of features have been extracted for every history. History, please remember, is with bound to a particular position. For a position I have a history. So this is the observation, the training data is the observation, and I would like to now find out the parameters. We'll see what the parameters are. Now these statistics are expressed as the expected values of appropriate functions defined on the contexts H and tags T. So there are feature functions for the problem, and to be more precise, we say that there are feature functions at every position. So it is of course a different matter that all positions have the same set of features. Okay, so we could have dropped the suffix I from the history because the history has the same set of feature functions for every position. But still we maintain this mathematical rigor and say that for every position there is a history function, history, which is composed of different feature functions. So the expected values of these feature functions is of interest to us, the expected values of these feature functions. Let's proceed and see In particular, the constraints demand that the expectations of the features for the model match the empirical expectations of the features over the training data. Now, these feature functions, what is a feature like? Feature is at a position, what is the length of the word there? Okay, foxes, the length is 5. That is the feature. Okay, so that feature or the word has suffix es, that feature. Okay, so what is the expected value of the feature? The empirical estimate for that feature. Okay, the word has a suffix shun. What is the expected value of this feature? Given that the part of speech tag is noun, okay, given that the part of speech tag is noun, and I want to decide, do I have to place the tag B or I, beginning of chunk or inside the chunk? What do I have to do with that at that position? What I know is that the pause tag is NN and the word is ending in shun. So the expected value of the feature template is this. The part of speech is NN, the word ends in shun. This is the feature. Now the empirical estimate of that feature, the expected value of that feature is nothing but how many times that feature appears in the corpus divided by a normalizing factor. Okay, how many times does it appear in the corpus divided by a normalizing constant multiplied by another value, which is the expectation of that feature. So we know that expectation of a random variable is the value of the variable multiplied by the probability of the random variable for that value. So the expectation of a feature will be the value of that feature multiply the probability of the feature with a particular value. Okay, so you are slowly, I suppose, getting an idea as to where we are going. We are appealing to all the definitions and gradually modifying our concepts to suit our situation. So we want the following to happen. The expectation of the features as given by the model should be equal to empirical expectation of the features as given by the training data. So this is a very neat and clever situation. Okay, I have the training data in front of me. I will maximize the entropy. What do I do with the observation? I absorb these in the optimization framework as a constraint. Okay, and the constraint is that the expected value by the model is equal to expected value by the training data. So empirical expectation should be equal to model based expectation. Okay, so this is the main point. I'm not elaborating this further. You think about this and we will come back to this point to make it more clear. Okay, two expectations have to match. So the expectation of features according to the joint distribution P are equal to the expectations of the features in the empirical distribution P tilde. Okay, exactly what I said. Now this is expressed by this mathematical expression. Expectation of the feature is equal to empirical expectation of the feature. Feature is the jth feature applied to ith position, where the history is h, I, and the tag is ti. So at a particular position, let's say the third position, the brown foxes. So foxes position, the ti is the NNS tag, is the label I'm looking for, and hi is the history consisting of foxes and its tag and many other feature functions. So a particular feature function is given the tag is nn. Does it end in es? So that value is the feature function, and the expectation of these based on the model should be equal to empirical estimate from the training data. Empirical estimate, to tell you very roughly, but this is the right starting point, is some kind of count of that feature in the training data. How many times that feature has appeared? Okay, how many nouns, plural nouns, have the suffix es? That is the kind of question. And you can make it more and more sophisticated by applying linguistics. Okay. So if this is the constraint to be satisfied, then it turns out that probability of ti given hi, which is our probability value based on which we'll apply Viterbi and decoding, is equal to e to the power lambda j fj hiti, j going from 1 to k, product of that, okay, divided by a normalizing factor. So first let us look at probability of ti given hi. This is product of exponentials, so that means it will become e to the power sum of these weighted feature functions, which is nothing but the dot product of the weight vector and the feature vector, okay, divided by the normalizing factor going over all possible tags at that position. Okay, so this is the probabilistic formulation for the parameter we are interested in. So we are interested in the parameters pti given hi. What is the tag that should be placed at the ith position? And once we know these probabilities, we can apply Viterbi for the decoding. So if we do this, then we get the feature functions and we can apply all these parameter values and do the decoding. Now, just to remind you, these FIs are applicable to the Viterbi search tree that keeps on getting developed. This was shown yesterday. See, this is PTI, TI is B, TI minus 1 is I inside, and the history is depending on this whole sentence here, the brown foxes jumped over the fence. And we did elaborate feature engineering that day, making use of the words, and words we decided will be represented by their pre-trained vectors, part of speech tag based features, chunk based features, morphology based features based on suffixes, prefixes, noun suffixes like er, ness, scion, ship, etc. Adjective suffixes like able, al, eve, ant, etc. Verb suffixes like ed, ing, eyes, and so on. Adverb suffixes like li, word, wise. Similarly, prefixes. We did an elaborate exercise of this feature engineering. And there were these word property based features also, capitalization, length, orthographic syllables, animacy, carnivorous or not. All these we took into account in designing the feature set. Now, this is not to say that you will make use of all these features. No, that was not the idea. Wanted to show you what feature engineering means, how you can approach feature engineering in a systematic manner. And for feature engineering, you really have to go back, okay, from a layer at the NLP stack to a lower level. See, so much of feature is coming from the part of speech tag, and so much of feature is coming from the words themselves, suffixes, prefixes, property of the word, and so on. And we remarked that properties of the words come from knowledge graphs, like word nets, verb net, and so on. So, So there is a cyclicity, and we concretized our discussion by understanding and emphasizing that the feature vector has a number of compartments. There is a compartment devoted to words, compartment devoted to part of speech, compartment devoted to word properties, compartment devoted to semantic properties, and so on. And just keeping our example in mind, we did an exercise to find out how many features we could conceivably deal with for solving our problem, and a bit of calculation showed us that if we take all features that were discussed, then we'll have a feature vector of size 1912, which is very, very small compared to what happens in deep learning. Okay, so the feature vectors are typically maybe 100,000 components, 1 million components. One deals with very large numbers in deep learning, and one is forced to do so because no external knowledge is brought in, ideally speaking. Okay, in a pure deep learning network, the system is end-to-end, and you do not bring in any external knowledge. So you are perforce compelled to deal with large amount of data, large number of features, large number of parameters, that is weight values, large number of outputs, so everything is large there. But that is increasingly becoming infeasible because where do you get so much of data? However, for your problem, maybe the maximum size of the feature vector would be 1912, which is not much really. You can train a network or a learning machine on this dimension of vector. You can easily do that. And but for you decide, how many features you want to work with. And a large contributor to this feature vector size is the word to vec dimension, about 300. So at this point of time, I would like to stop and take questions, because I'm sure, based on yesterday's discussion and after reading the slides and trying the assignment, you probably have many questions to ask.
Jalai asks, how did you come up with the entropy formula for coin loss exam?
Oh, how do I come up with that? Achha. So I come from the definition of entropy. Definition of entropy is sigma minus sigma pi log pi, where pi is the probability of the ith outcome. Okay, and sigma pi equal to 1. All probabilities sum to 1. So where does this come from? This comes from information theory. Okay, this is the minimum bit length for transferring information. Okay, so this comes from information theory. Please look up how information theory gives you this entropy formulation. Minus p log p minus 1 minus p log 1 minus p. There are two outcomes, head and tail. Probability of head is p, probability of tail is 1 minus p. Okay, next.
Excel asks, when do MLE and maximum entropy give different answers?
Good question. I don't know really. If the result that is known is that if the distribution is from the exponential family, then both paths lead to the same destination. Both MLE and ME give you the same parameter values. When do they give differently? I'll have to go through the proof little more carefully. I can give you the reference of the paper which shows this equivalence of the two frameworks. Maybe if you look closely at the derivations, you will be able to find out when they differ. It's a good question. I also have to look more closely.
Abhishek Panigrahi asks, sir, can you please explain again the P tilde in that expectation slide?
Yeah, this is the one. Okay, so P tilde is called the empirical distribution, and P is called the model distribution. So what is the expected value of the feature according to empirical distribution? What is the expected value of the feature according to model distribution? Model distribution is in terms of ratio of two exponents. Empirical distribution is in the form of counts. Okay, so yeah, that is it. I really cannot elaborate this further, but maybe many examples will make it clear to you. Essentially, it is how many times what does the feature appear in the corpus? How many times does this feature appear in the corpus? Looked at probabilistically. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
Rishi has a question. If they differ so less that we don't know exactly when they differ, why not use advantage of using MEMM?
Yes. So MLE is purely with observation. Okay. What is in front of your eyes? Now, if observations have deeper properties which need to be uncovered and used, just like we could not very much with the hidden Markov model when we wanted to exploit the features that we know, capitalization, suffix, and so on. So the hidden Markov model, where the ratio of counts was the main parameter, not main parameter, main estimation methodology, we could not do this, we could not exploit the features very easily. So maximum entropy Markov model, on the other hand, is able to deal with features more elegantly, I would say. But this requires convincing you mathematically as well as with examples. So we'll present more examples to convince.
Right, so these were all the questions.
Okay, thank you.